What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Tony, that dude that's stuck in the 90s, but here to teach a new generation about a time when movies did not suck. We're back with another tier list, of course, doing something a little bit different this time, though. So I decided we're going to rank basically the most well-known terrible movies. These are movies that are just notorious. They are notoriously known for being terrible films. These movies are basically like the worst of the worst, but they're so bad that they're good. Now, keep in mind, this isn't like every single bad movie ever made. This is just strictly based on the most well-known. This is like a list of, I think it's like 18 or 19 films. One of them on there, too, is arguably like not necessarily a bad movie, but these are deemed horrible by society. These are considered like some of the worst movies ever made in the horror genre. Now, you guys came here to see the tier list, not me yapping away. So let's get right to it. All right. Now, if you've been here before and you are familiar with how we do this, you guys already know how the tiers work. But for those of you that don't, let me fill you in. So keep in mind, these are horror movies. Horror movies are not typically Oscar winners, and some are, but I like a lot of shitty horror movies. I'm well known for having the worst taste in movies. So what I have is just based on being fair. Because again, especially this, dude, these are movies that are just terrible. In nature, these are bad movies. So don't misunderstand the tier list in terms of the rankings or like the ratings, as you can see. So like masterpiece, that would be considered 5-star technically. Again, sort of, not necessarily 5-star. This is not meant to be taken serious. And most of these, you're going to find that they're just based off my opinion. The next one is terrific. Close to 4 stars. Again, it doesn't necessarily make it a 4-star movie. It's just, I think it's terrific for what it's worth. Appreciate it is something where it's like, you know it exists. You may or may not like it, but you understand it. You understand why people like it. You appreciate it. Kill Some Time is really just, you got to see this movie. It's not amazing. It's not bad per se. It really depends on the film. But that's what Kill Some Time is. And then you got Why Dude, which is, no, this is like, yeah, this is stupid. This is not something I'm going to defend. But again, keep in mind, these are horror movies. And they're some of the worst ones ever made. So I already know that I'm going to get tons of comments like, what the fuck? See No Evil at Terrific? What is happening here? But anyway, these are the worst films ever made. Well, the top, most talked about, I guess you could say, because there's some that are not on here that should be on here. These are just the most common ones that I could think of that I know for a fact everybody fucking hates. Well, mainstream-wise. To some degree, everybody hates these films, right? Okay, first off, we have probably one of the few movies that scared the shit out of me as a kid, Darkness Falls. If you have not seen this movie, it is about a tooth fairy that if you see her, she fucking kills you. She takes your teeth. It sounds stupid, dude, but when you're 9 years old, it makes sense. It's terrifying. And like I said, it scared me as a kid. For some reason, though, this is a movie that a lot of people shut on. It's a movie that, for whatever reason, dude, it just could not find any common ground with anybody, especially when I was a kid. Even other kids I knew did not like this movie because they thought it was stupid. I'm a kid with too much imagination and time on my hand, dude. I watched this movie front to back numerous times. It scared the ever-loving out of me. Is the concept dumb? Yes. It's been done before, literally hundreds of times. So this movie's not anything new. And it's also poorly acted. And there's a lot of questions that kind of, you wonder about the production of the movie. You wonder about the story and where it's going. Like I said, it has plot holes. It has its problems. That's probably why a lot of people hate it. But I've always thought this is a misunderstood movie. I think this is a movie that you should definitely show friends, family who have never seen it. Fuck with them a little bit. No, it's not a masterpiece, but I love this movie, dude. I think that Darkness Falls is 100% terrific. For being a movie that just, in my opinion, stands the test of time, it's one of the few on here that I can watch it over and over. And I will say, I think it's a decent film. No, it's not amazing. It's also not bad, though, either. I get where people call it bad. I just don't agree. I really think that Darkness Falls is one of those movies that people view as generic horror. It's a movie you've seen before. And I think that's why it hurts, is because, again, you've heard of this. You've seen this somewhere in another film. And it's PG-13, which doesn't really help, but I guess it works, especially when you're a young kid like me that went and saw it in theaters. There you go. Up next on the chopping block, we have Chopping Mall. I love this movie, dude. I think that Chopping Mall is a masterpiece. That's another one that I really think that people misunderstand, have always misunderstood. I didn't know about this film until a certain Mr. Joe Bob Briggs, who follows me on Instagram, by the way. Yes, that's one of my few flexes I have in life. I learned about this movie through him and one of his specials. I watched it and I was like, dude, this is awesome. It's a different type of slasher movie. Very different. Think Terminator and Friday the 13th, but very innovative. No, dude, when you see the androids in this movie, because keep in mind, this movie is about a new type of mall security that goes awry. People stay overnight when they're not supposed to, and they are fighting for their lives. These things are killing machines. So our killer is not a physical being. He's not a evil force of nature. As robots, and that's as 80s as it gets, in my opinion. It's a weird movie for sure. I've watched it numerous times and I've thought, yeah, it's weird. The acting's not very good in this, obviously, but for being an 80s flick, it's pretty cool. It is a weird movie, though. Like I said, there's no physical character. It's robots out to get these fucking kids that have stayed overnight in this mall. Very weird movie. But again, I think it's just misunderstood. I think that this is a movie that fell into the pile of 80s slasher flick. And so it just got overlooked. Up next, we have Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. This one I'm putting at terrific, dude. Again, it's another horror film that I would say falls under the category of typical 80s horror film. So it got overlooked. We have a Pauly Shore in here. This is one of his earlier movies. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of his first movies. Not 100%, but he's in here for some weird reason. And he's not the sniveler that we're used to. He's not wheezing the juice. He's not doing any of that. He's Pauly Shore being a young kid who's an idiot. I mean, it's young Pauly Shore, but that's really the only claim to fame this movie has. Other than that, though, dude, I love the music in it, and I like the story, and I love that it's called Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, leading you to believe there's been other fucking movies in this franchise, and there hasn't. This is the only one. The story is about something that happens to a certain somebody. He takes refuge at a mall. He haunts it. He watches the love of his life there, and then kills people. That's kind of the best way to describe this movie. It's a very, again, like Chopping Mall, it's weird. Not a lot going on, but you watch this movie and you're like, it's unique. You can feel the 80s essence that just glistens off this movie, dude. Again, this is one of those movies that you watch it and you're like, yeah, it is very much a product of its time. And I feel like that's kind of why it got overlooked, is it's just seen as another 80s slasher flick, and it's not really a slasher movie. It has some pretty good kills in it, but I would not call this a slasher. But it is very much 80s, and it's a weird film. Like Chopping Mall, Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge is a wild movie. But I think it's awesome for what it's worth. I will be the first to tell you, it is a film where nothing is happening in it, but I personally enjoy it. We have See No Evil, putting this bitch at masterpiece. I love See No Evil, dude. I don't understand the hate this movie gets. I really don't. Like, I can see where people call this cheesy. I can see where it's like, oh, this is just WWE capitalizing on the slasher vibe. Like, yeah, no shit, it's Kane. That's the best part of this movie, is it's fucking Kane. If you're a wrestling fan, you knew what to expect. And they delivered, in my opinion, dude. This movie's awesome. If you're a slasher fan, this movie's for you. If you're a wrestling fan, this movie is for you. Is the character stupid? Yes. Is the sequel way better? Yes. But for a freshman effort and for being Kane's first real movie, I think it's awesome, dude. And the kills in it are fucking cool. They're creative. It's comical. It's funny. It's got problems. Again, these are not the best movies in the world, but these are movies that they've been deemed the worst of the worst. And I really do believe it's because these are movies that were put in theaters for all to see when they shouldn't have been. Well, one of these did not go to theaters, but these are like bastard films that the general public saw and just ripped apart. Didn't give any chance for these films to survive. And that's See No Evil. I think that this movie had so much hype behind it because of the fact that it was a WWE production and you had a wrestler in it. So people were expecting compelling, greatest like thing ever. And you can tell they were trying to cash in on the chances of a franchise. And it didn't work out. I would honestly argue that as much as I like the story, it's not a very good one. The second one has better everything, better story, better acting, even though it's also terrible. But for what it's worth, this is a fun movie. See No Evil is the definition of fun, and it is a time capsule. You watch this, and you probably remember where you were when this movie came out. I remember having a WWE Raw magazine. I don't know if they still do that, but back when Raw and SmackDown had their own publications and magazines, I remember having one for this movie specifically. It was all about the making of. You get to meet some of the actors and the articles. It talks about like what Kane did to become this big bad boy, even though he's a wrestler. And I would imagine he didn't have to do much, but according to this article, he had to go through quite a transformation to be Jacob Goodnight. And yes, that's his fucking name in the movie. Idle Hands, you guys have heard me talk about this. This is a masterpiece. Idle Hands is fucking awesome. Fuck Devin Sawa, fuck him. Other than that, this is a great movie. Yeah, if you guys don't know, I have real life beef with that motherfucker, dude. That aside, though, I love this movie. I would honestly say, besides Final Destination, this is probably his best performance. And my girl Jessica Alba is in here. So smoking, dude. This is smoke show Alba. She's still a gorgeous woman, especially for being in her 40s, but man, 90s Alba hit way different, dude. Oh, and the soundtrack in this movie. This is a movie about a boy's hand that gets possessed and kills his friends, tries to kill his girlfriend, kills his parents. Like, it is a bizarre movie, but oh, it's so fucking funny, dude. Picture Pineapple Express if it were a somewhat horror film. You got Seth Green in here too, dude. Early, like, well, not early, but the beginning of Seth Green. This is the beginning. This is Scotty Evil Seth Green. There we go. And I gotta say, for what it's worth, the story it's dumb, but it does go somewhere. This is one of the few movies that has a stupid story, and it actually goes somewhere. It gets you from point A to B without too much information that doesn't make sense. I feel like these movies just kind of throw you into a bunch of different like vehicles, and you go down this path where it just never ends and random shit pops up that never gets addressed. It's almost like they just threw it in there. This movie does have that, but the plot actually goes somewhere. You're getting somewhere. Things do get addressed. I wouldn't say there's a lot of plot holes. Like, there's some things in here that are questionable, but it's a movie that is grounded for how goofy it is. Idle Hands is 100% a must-see. If you don't have this movie, dude, you're out of your mind. This is the ultimate stoners movie. Idle Hands belongs in every stoner's home, as well as every horror fan's home. Up next, we have Jaws: The Revenge. This movie is a giant piece of shit. Look, dude, I don't know if you guys are big fans of Jaws like I am. I mean, I'm a big fan of the first one. I don't really care for the sequels. I don't really like 2. I like 3 just for the fact that it takes like the Lost World aspect to it. It takes that route. It's theme park. It's really bizarre and big screen, but it's stupid. None of them are as terrible as this one, though, dude. Jaws: The Revenge is bad. This movie is about a shark that has telepathy and it can read the mind of a guilty woman, basically, and it goes hunting for this family. This is where the shark becomes a character, in my opinion. You can argue that all you want in the first 3. In this movie, this shark is a character. They do so much to make it apparent that this shark is hunting this family. This is the most Michael Myers entry of the entire franchise. And that's probably why it's the last one. As far as I know, this is the last one. And let's keep it that way. Out of all these movies, and there's some on here that are stupid, but this is one that I really genuinely say don't waste your time on. If you're going to waste your time on anything Jaws related, watch 2 and 3. Because the first one truly is a masterpiece. It's a film that clearly represents the fact that there should have only been one. Do not watch Jaws: The Revenge, dude. This is one that does suck. It earned its name rightfully so. Now, here comes a controversial opinion. Alone in the Dark. Appreciate it. So, I know. If you're a video game fanatic, this movie's going to piss you off. However, I didn't get mad. And I like Christian Slater. I am fully aware that he is not a good actor. He's never been a good actor at all. But a lot of my favorite movies he's in. This is one of them. Well, it's not my favorite movie, but I appreciate this movie. I like it. It doesn't follow the game fucking at all. I mean, to some degree, but like, dude, it just doesn't. And it's directed by, I hope I'm saying his name right, Uwe Boll, I believe, German director. He has the reputation of like the worst director. Okay, not the worst director, but like his reputation really much is he is known for making notoriously bad films, specifically video game disasters. This and House of the Dead, I guess, are both movies he's made that are just awful. And I'm going to be honest, today is how old I was when I learned he did both of them. But that makes sense. However, I still enjoy it. This is one of those movies that it's so bad it is good for me. Most people I talk to, though, hate it. So if you're on your phone right now losing your fucking mind because you see that Alone in the Dark is on Appreciate It, you're not alone. I guarantee you there's a whole crowd of you right now that probably want to turn on me, but I enjoy it. That's why I'm saying I appreciate it. I am more than willing to admit it's not a good movie. It's never been a good movie. It'll probably never be a good movie, but I enjoy it for what it's worth, dude. It is the ultimate, like, this is one of the fucking worst movies ever. Coming up next, we have I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Again, we're putting this one at terrific. A lot of terrifics here. So this is not a good movie, but here's the thing. I understand why people think it's a bad movie. So when the first one came out, dude, I was pretty much invested into the Scream wave. Keep in mind, I was a kid. In the 90s, I grew up. I didn't grow up. I was raised. There we go. I was a child in the 90s, dude. So I remember being like a little kid going to theaters to see both of these movies. The second one had so much behind it, dude. There was so much like ranting and raving about it that my uncle, my mom, they were dying to see this movie. Luckily, we went and saw it in a drive-through, or at the drive-in. Sorry, I don't remember much of it, so I had to rewatch it. And again, I understand where people think it's bad, but I love it, man. It does kind of stray away from the spirit of the first one, but dude, compared to some of the other shit we got after, I would say this movie definitely has redeemed itself. And I do like the story. I like that we take the setting out of where we were before, from a small bay town to literally the middle of nowhere in basically the fucking jungle, dude. Is it insane? Yes. The acting in this is awful. The first one is awful too, though. That's the argument I've always made with people, which is like, dude, that's not good acting. Who cares? That being said, though, the kill reveal's stupid as well. Again, I am telling you every reason why I think this movie is bad, but I'm also going to explain why I like it. The last thing is you have a lot of wooden characters, very, very wooden characters in this one. Again, though, the first one has that problem too. It may not be such a big deal because I Still Know What You Did Last Summer has the same problem that most sequels have, which is we already know who the villain is. The cat is out of the box. It's not scary anymore. So I think that that's why they chose to go the route of focusing on kills versus story. Because there's not much story here. There's not much to the characters. It does take a dip when it comes to that department. They definitely scale back on the writing and making things make sense. This movie really does kind of exist to just be more of a body count film. However, Jennifer Love Hewitt's back. Everybody from the first film is pretty much in it. Well, surviving, I should say. We have a new cast of characters as well, and we have an unaccredited Jack Black in here, so there's that. I just don't think it's as bad as people made it out to be. Yes, it is definitely a whole lot different than the first one, but if you ask me, dude, it's a feel-good movie. If anything, for a lot of you, this might be kill some time, but for me, it's terrific. I love it. I watched the first one, and then I watched this one, and I don't watch the rest of them. Now we have Yui Bull's House of the Dead, which I was just talking about. Gonna put it at appreciate it. Again, not a good flick. In fact, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Next to Alone in the Dark. Yui Bull is known for making some of the worst movies ever. So it doesn't really change anything, dude. It's literally like watching Alone in the Dark. Same fucking thing, dude. That's how it feels watching House of the Dead. However, I really enjoy this movie. Again, it's a nightmare of a video game adaptation, but for what it's worth, dude, it's totally worth checking out with your buds. Maybe for some of you, this is at kill some time, but for me personally, it's at appreciate it. Yes, I own a copy of it. Yes, I actually enjoy it. Yes, I think it's pretty decent. No, it's not good, but I just don't think it's bad for sure. I'm very conflicted with some of these movies, dude. That's why I chose to do this, because I know that these are movies that people just fucking hate. But there's some of us like me that find something about them to enjoy. Honestly, between House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark, probably Alone in the Dark is the one you should watch. They're both not good video game adaptations at all. Speaking of video game adaptation, though, that is good, that in my opinion is a pretty decent flick. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. In fact, I think it's bullshit what happened to this movie. Doom. This movie is an absolute masterpiece. It doesn't follow the video game very well. Whatever. It even does some things where it tries to imitate like the video game style. Whatever. You got Carl Urban in here, a young Carl Urban, and you got old school Rock in here, back when he was still kind of the Rock. So it has a lot behind it. Story is pretty interesting. It's not the best written, but dude, for what it's worth, this movie really is like a mixture of alien films. You got Alien, The Thing, Star Wars. You have a lot of different stuff you can throw in there for this. I think that a lot of the hatred for this film, and this is just me, it has to come from the fact that this is a video game adaptation. So I really do believe people went in expecting this to somehow be like the game. Doom is the perfect example of what happens when you're trying to make a movie off of a game that's a first-person shooter, and that's it. Especially like 80s and 90s arcade-style games. It is very hard to make a movie out of those. They're very simple. They're very not complex. So there's not a lot to offer there. That's why I can understand that they went the route they went in. They changed a lot. Story-wise, they changed a lot. And I will say this. I love the kills, dude. I love the fucking alien designs. I love the guns. I love all the effects. I think this is a good movie. I don't understand why this movie ever got shat on, other than it doesn't follow the fucking video game. Whatever. I'm the same person that has that problem with a lot of movies. However, just like Doom, just like The Dark Knight, I can understand taking little pieces of a property you're trying to adapt and going about it with your own thing, going your own way. That can be done. And I feel like Doom is a good representation of that, but there's just so much of a crowd that grew up playing this game. They truly felt betrayed by the release of it. Or they'll tell you it's just a stupid movie. And maybe it is stupid to some people. I think it's a badass movie, dude. Doom is a misunderstood film through and through. It is a must see for you. Add it to your collection. Do you want to see The Rock before he was ever actually a bad guy? Check this movie out. Now we have Urban Legends, The Final Cut. Putting this bitch at terrific. I would love to put it at masterpiece, but here's the thing. I like the first one more. I don't understand why this one takes a dip in quality, because it is noticeable. You can tell that Urban Legends 2, it is cheaper looking. The killer design is kind of stupid compared to the first one. The first one, it was more, I'm not going to say compelling, but it worked. This one, it's very like, I mean, it's cool. And like, I will say I do like the story in it, but again, you can see that the quality does take a dip compared to the first one. Story is just the same thing as the first one, basically. A little bit different, but it's pretty much the same movie. In fact, calling it Final Cut was weird. I kind of feel like, because these movies make you feel like they're trying to create their own franchise, but they don't necessarily do that. They don't really go anywhere. Like the first one ends on such a weird cliff note that you kind of saw a sequel coming. And they do try to do that here too, but it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like this was just a do-over of the first one. Yes, it does mention the first film, but realistically, this is kind of its own movie. I'm pretty sure there is one character that returns in it too that is in the first one, and that's really the only connection there is, aside from them mentioning it. Like I said, this movie is very much just a do-over of the first one, with a different design, different set of characters, but it's not as bad as people say it is. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still not that bad. People went out of their way to make this movie like the worst fucking thing they had seen, and it's like, dude, I feel like some of you guys have never seen movies like Valentine or, I don't know, Critters 3 and 4. Like, I just feel like there's so many movies that people don't see, and then they go to the theaters and they see something like this, and then they immediately go, worst thing ever. And it's so misunderstood. That's what this movie is too. Just like Doom, Urban Legends Final Cut is very, very misunderstood. Oh, dude, speaking of just god-awful, but I love it, Jason X. I can appreciate Jason X, dude. If you grew up a big Friday the 13th fan like me, you were dying for this movie. And this also came out, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit before Freddy vs. Jason, or maybe it was after. I truly can't remember. It was around the same time, though. It was like in that little couple year gap. So I had never seen a Friday the 13th film in theaters yet at that point. I was still like in first, second grade. Got to go see this in theaters with my stepdad. He liked it, but even he was just like, what the fuck is this? Come to find out, this movie was made like a year or two before it was released to theaters, and it got leaked. And I do believe that it being leaked did kill a lot of its box office performance, because there's no way people knew how shitty this movie was going to be before it came out. There's no way. But if you watch it, it is pretty bad. The CGI is pretty bad. I mean, it's okay for its time, but it is noticeably bad. Again, we got Jason in space. And I think most horror fans know this. When you send your character to space, the franchise is pretty much dead. There's nothing else to do. That's just kind of a common thread. Some movies have pulled it off, but when your killer goes to space after so many movies, dude, the franchise is going to die. And this movie did not do good. It finally found its following over the years. It has a cult following now, and I'm here to tell you to watch it. It's funny. The kills in it are pretty cool too. It's not innovative, but it is different. It is taking an old killer that we've had for decades and doing something different, for sure. But it's also not the most amazing thing in the world, dude. Like, kind of glad this was one of the last Friday movies we got. Sorta. There's a remake that's not great in my opinion, but I'm happy that this was kind of like, okay, we're done. We're done making these old Friday the 13th films. Because it's been a while. We've had a remake, we've had Freddy vs. Jason, and that's it. I know we're getting a show on like A24, I think. Or I don't know who's doing the show. There's a Crystal Lake show that's coming out that I'm definitely not going to watch. But the sad thing about Jason X is you watch it and you know that this is unfortunately the final chapter of this character from back in those days. Not a good way to end it. And I will say that. But, oh, it's so funny, dude. Look up the making on this too, though. It'll actually shock you how fucking ridiculous and kind of almost like this movie wasn't supposed to happen. That's what you'll feel when you're watching the making of it. I'm glad it did, though, dude. This is a movie that I own. Again, it is not as bad as people made it out to be. I would argue there are other movies that are fucking worse than this one. Next up, we have, this is the one I said that doesn't necessarily belong on here, but it has a reputation of being like one of the worst movies ever. Sleepaway Camp 2, I'm putting it at appreciate it. I think that, I mean, I like it a lot more than I'm saying, but I'm also trying to be honest. I love the first one. Great film, great ending, awesome. This movie does not even touch how great the last one was. But I like this one for some weird reason, dude. This one really is like a... You guys ever seen The Naked Mile or like American Pie Presents movies? That's what this feels like. This feels like a spin-off bastard distant relative of the first one. Because it really has nothing to do with the first film other than it's supposed to be the main character who is a full-on camp counselor now. We're going to ignore the events of the last film. She's a grown-up now and she's just out killing motherfuckers that don't live up to her code. It's corny. It's dumb. I'll admit the kills in it are very goofy, but they're cool. And it's just, I don't know what it is, man. You watch this movie and it really feels like you're hanging out with your buddy's buddy. It's just, it's so foreign to what you were just doing, but it feels right. And like I said, it's not, I would not suggest watching these movies back to back. The first one is a whole movie on its own. It's a whole different level. The quality is clearly different. And what's funny is the first one gets treated like a cheesy movie. Everyone loves to treat that like a low budget horror film, which it is, but I would argue the budget shows in this one, dude. The spirit in this one is way different. It's satirical, it's comical, whereas the first one's just dark and depressing as shit. This one puts a smile on your face, and I think it's because they knew they were making a shitty film. It is so worth checking out, though. But that's because, in my opinion, again, it falls under that category of typical 80s slasher, cookie cutter recycled material. It got overlooked. It is worth checking out, though. Next one. So this would be more in line with where the last one should have went. Sleepaway Camp 3. I'm putting it at Kill Some Time. This one truly is a bad movie. But, hear me out. It was filmed around the same time as 2. If I'm not mistaken, they did film these 2 movies back to back, I think. This one did get like a limited theatrical release, I think. I know the second one got pretty limited too, but this one mostly went straight to video, dude. It shows. It's a video horror film. But it's still worth checking out, dude. I like the kills in it. I do think it's a lot darker in tone. It does have the comedy that the second one had, but it steers away and it's a little darker. It tries to take itself a little more serious when it shouldn't. We have our serial killer back again. She plays the same character. It's not the same actress from the first film for obvious reasons. Like I said when I was talking about Sleepaway Camp 2, 2 and 3 are just vastly different movies. You could almost say that these really aren't sequels and they're kind of their own thing. But because we have a character that keeps them alive, that's really the only connection they have. This one is campy. It's way campier than the second one. But for some reason, just like Sleepaway Camp 2, the third one pulls you in. You have a hard time kind of getting away from it. Unless, of course, you get bored easily by cheesy horror films. Then why are you even here? This one's going to be super controversial. Blair Witch 2, the book of whatever the fuck it was called. I'm putting that bitch up at terrific. I like it. No, it's not good, but I'm not going to lie. I'd rather watch this one over the last one we got in like 2010, I think it was. Or not 10. It was like 2014, right? Something along those lines. Blair Witch is what it was called. That movie sucked. It was cool and all. Like, I get why people dug it, had an interesting concept, but I don't know, dude. I'd rather watch this one more. I get why people hate this one. It abandons what made the first film feel real. So 1 and 2, vastly different films, just like the third one. It's its own thing. Where they fucked up, though, was getting rid of the found footage aspect and making it more in line with where Hollywood was at the time with horror films. And it does have a narrative that makes absolutely no sense. However, it's dramatic. It's got some pretty cool killer scenes in here. Pretty decent deaths as well. Again, though, the concept is really wild. It's really wacky. This really isn't a Blair Witch movie. They take the name Blair Witch and just kind of infuse it into this story about these filmmakers that try to go to the same woods area where the events of the first film happen. But it really is kind of, again, its own movie. Ironically, it got a big-ass release, too. I remember when this came out and we went and saw it, and my mom and dad were pissed because they liked the first one. They thought the first one was cool. I was a kid, I was like 9, 10 years old, so I really didn't know any better. But over the years, I've grown fond to it. Even I can tell you it's not a very good movie, but for whatever reason, dude, it's one of those that you can't help but add to your collection, and you put it on every now and then. It is so bad that it's good, essentially. I definitely watch it from time to time. I just don't. It's clearly not the first film. Whenever I watch Blair Witch Project, dude, I never watch this one as a follow-up. This really is, I'm just chilling one night. I'm going through my movie inventory and I see a certain movie I want to watch. Blair Witch 2 is one of them. Again, story is very fucking confusing and convoluted. Makes absolutely no sense. Truly has not much to do with the first film, but for what it's worth, it's an interesting film. Next one we got. Ooh, I'm glad that we just stumbled upon this one. I hate this movie, The Wicker Man. I know a lot of people that like it because they're like, "Oh, it's so bad, it's funny," and it's like, yeah, that's how bad it is. It's hard to sit through, dude. I guess I can understand where people would rather watch this over like Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead, but I'm such a fan of the old one, and I was truly traumatized by the old one that I had a hard time getting into this one. And I have nothing against Nicolas Cage. I actually like Nicolas Cage. Poor choice. Very poor choice. And oh my God, just like he's proven he can act, but this is not where it should be. Like, I just don't, God, it's terrible, dude. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Truly. I think Nicolas Cage does unfortunately bomb it. The way it's written also fucks it up. It's pretty much the same thing as the original, but they change it up a little bit to make it more modern and to make it make more sense. There we go. I just don't think that it does any justice though when trying to be a remake. It's so fucking corny, dude, that it is laughable. I mean, the infamous, oh my eyes, there's bees in my eyes. The infamous Nicolas Cage, his head is right there where they put that fucking thing, the contraption over his head, and it's swarming with bees. You've seen this everywhere, dude. It's such a dumb movie, man. I understand why people enjoy it because they might find it funny. Cool. I don't think it's funny at all. I think it's just stupid, dude. It's one of those movies that, like Jaws: The Revenge, I've only seen it a handful of times and I don't plan on returning to it. If you like it, cool. I'm not saying you're stupid. I just think it's low-hanging fruit. But again, though, this is the same guy telling you that Alone in the Dark rocks. So keep in mind that that's what you can take from it. Is it worth checking out at least once? Yes. Show your friends the Wicker Man remake so they can have a good laugh. That's what I would suggest, but do not add it to your inventory. Now we have Godsend. This is a movie that I truly did not understand why it was so hated. I thought it was compelling. Then again, though, I was like 12 years old when I first saw it, so I think I was 12. Maybe I was a teenager, actually. I didn't see this until a little bit later in life. I knew it had De Niro in it, so I had to see that. I was like, why not? But for what it's worth, I understand why people aren't the biggest fan of this movie. It's cheesy, dude. It's very cheesy. Like, you have a lot of good actors in this movie, but the way it comes off is just so corny. It's like, man, you guys had so much at your disposal. How did this come out feeling like such a shitty movie? That just makes no sense. But that being said, though, that aside, again, I was a kid when I saw this movie, so I fucking thought it was compelling. I thought it was one of the coolest movies ever. And then I got older and, even I'm able to tell you right now that the effect of it has worn off. I do think it's a masterpiece, for what it's worth, for being a shitty film. Godsend is probably the most professional of this lineup. Like, if we want to be real, let's do this. Oh, damn. There we go. Out of all these movies, Godsend is probably the best one in terms of quality. It's not overly cheesy, but when you're someone that watches all types of movies, you can pick up on the cheese. But I would argue that it's the most professionally done looking film compared to all these, because these movies all have something in common. They're edited pretty poorly. So for what it's worth, Godsend is worth at least checking out. I think it's a good movie. I genuinely believe that, like Doom, like some of these other films that I've mentioned, Godsend is very misunderstood. There you go. Oh, and it does things that you wish it wouldn't do. Or like, you hear about the concept of what it's about and you think you know where they're going to go with it, and that's not where they go with it. So there's that too. That's also what tanks this movie. Now, my absolute favorite. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Of all these movies, this is my favorite. And I'm putting it where it belongs, in masterpiece. Even though I just said Godsend is way better out of all these movies, it is professionally. But biased Tony and like where I want things to be, Pet Sematary 2 is number one. Now, hear me out. This is my hot take. Pet Sematary 2 is way better than the first one. I'm not going to explain why, though. If you're that curious, you can comment below and ask me why I'm that dumb. But I do firmly believe Pet Sematary 2 is way better than the first one. It's darker, it's grittier, it's more fucked up, it's a little upsetting. The first one's scary. I will say that. The first one actually truly terrified me, and oh, dude, as an adult now, I can't watch it. It's too hard to watch. But this one is truly a different type of movie. And what's crazy is it is a sequel, obviously. It talks about the events of the first film, but we have Eddie Furlong here. This did go to theaters, and this is supposed to be like their attempt at making a franchise out of this. The story is ridiculous, but God, I love it, dude. Anything with Furlong always reminds me of my childhood. And that's what this movie is. It's a spitting image of the 90s. This movie is just about a kid that his celebrity mom dies. His dad, who is a vet, moves him to the small town where our infamous cemetery resides. He meets a local neighbor who, befriends him through the fact that they both get bullied by the school asswipe. One of them, if I'm not mistaken, it's the friend. His dog dies. They go and they bury him because they know about the local legend. Dog comes back. Things seem okay until an adult goes away and the kids have to make the decision of, do we tell them what happened or do we bury him and hope he comes back normal? And I would argue in this one, the characters are way more evil as well. It does take some time for crazy shit to spiral out of control to like pure madness, unlike the first film. But dude, I think it's cooler. I think it's bloodier. It's definitely more fun too. This one's a fun watch, even though it's fucking crazy. However, I can see where this is a movie that after watching the first one, you watch this and you're like, that is a truly shitty movie. I can understand that mindset. I do believe, though, that Pet Sematary 2 is just like Halloween 3. It's its own thing. If you shut your mind off from the fact that it's a sequel to the first one, if you pretend like the first one doesn't exist, whatever it takes, you will enjoy this movie. Pet Sematary 2 is not only a masterpiece, it is a must-see, like right now. I own this shit on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray finally. Oh, I love Pet Sematary 2, dude. But anyway, before I get too into one movie out of all these, this is my official ranking of the best, like, worst movies ever made in the horror genre. Again, if there's a movie that's not up here and you feel like it should be, comment below, let me know. Shit, comment below if you disagree with this. I'm sure a lot of you are not fans of where some shit ended up on here. But I would like to think that some of this stuff is pretty good for being shitty films. Maybe Masterpiece might be a little bit more of like that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. Let's fix this really quick, actually. So if I'm being real, I do think Pet Sematary 2 is the best one out of all of them. Godsend's like the most, again, it's the most professional. It's weird that this movie ever got called cheesy. I can see it as a horror fan that watches a lot of cheesy films, but it's well shot, in my opinion. That's where I'm like, I don't understand where the hate comes for this movie. Maybe it's the story. There we go. All right, after Pet Sematary 2, we got Godsend, then we have Doom, then we have Idle Hands, Chopping Mall, and See No Evil. Yes, I feel comfortable with that. There we go. Let's fix this down here. We're going to put, there we go. Yeah. Okay, that about does it. I think that's right. All right, well, comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you hit that like button. Oh, and please don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more of this mug. Otherwise, folks, remember to always stay rad. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Before I go, what do you guys want me to rank? I've done franchises. I've done John Carpenter films. I've done remakes of the 2000s. I'm thinking about doing like my favorite director, like ranking directors. I don't know. But what do you guys want to see me do rank? Because you guys really seem to like these tier lists. All right, now for real though, the video's about to end. Shh.